Once again, it's Pegasus from the Wisefire Alliance. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. We got to talk about Dragma, a new archetype that was just announced yesterday. I am getting to it today. Had a little bit going on, but we're going to talk about the card breakdown, and then we're going to take our first look at Project Ignis. Shout out to Slim Yugioh. Now, this archetype is really cool. It is a light spellcaster based archetype. Forgive the blurriness, but this is how I got to break it down for you folks. It's a spellcaster, 1500 attack, 1500 defense. Cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster special summon from the extra deck. You can only use each of the following effects of this card once per turn. If there is a monster special summon from the extra deck on the field, you can special summon this card from the hand. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add one Dragma card from your deck to your hand. Basically, Stratos on a high level. Next up, we got Albus. Albus is a dragon that is a dark. If this card is normal or special summon, you can discard one card. Fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck using this monster and monsters your opponent controls as fusion material. You can only use this effect once per turn. Now, it doesn't have the same name, but it most definitely goes into this archetype because it most definitely fits into this archetype. I don't know if it's specifically tied to it. I haven't read the lore, haven't looked into it too much, but it did come on the same page. Next up, we got Theo, the Dragma Iron Hammer, which is a light spellcaster. So yet another spellcaster. Again, he can't be destroyed either by battle with a special summon monster from the extra deck, and you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If there is a monster special summon from the extra deck on the field, you can special summon him just like the other one. And you can target one face-up monster special summon from the extra deck until the end of the turn. This card gains 600 and the target loses 600, so he becomes a 2400 beater. That is really good. Next up, we got Aiden, the Dragma Oracle. I like the name Oracle. I like it. It's 1000 attack, 1800 defense. A little bit of weaker of the three so far. If there is a monster special summon from the extra deck, so you see they all have the same thing in common. If you touched your extra deck, I'm coming onto the field for free, and they're going to be able to spam onto the field for free. And then obviously it has the effect to, if it gets ran over by battle or by card effect, either player, it can special summon out of the deck. Pretty good. Fleur de Lis is the next card, which is actually bugged, and the reason why I'm not doing a replay until it is fixed. This card is a really big beater. If there is a monster special summon from the extra deck on the field, quick effect, you can special summon this card from the hand. Also, if you control another Dragma monster, you can target one face-up monster on the field and negate its effects until the end of this turn. That effect is actually bugged online. When your Dragma monster declares an attack, you can have all face-up Dragma monsters you control gain 500 attack. This archetype is really good, folks. Next up, Maximus Dragma, a 1500 attack, 3000 defense. You can banish one of either a fusion, synchro, exceed, or link monster from your grave and special summon this card from your hand for free. That's really free. During your main phase, you can send from your extra deck two monsters with two different names to the graveyard. Then your opponent sends two monsters with different names from their extra deck to the grave. This is the setup I was talking about earlier. For the rest of the turn after this card is activated, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. So that's the obvious drawback, but who really cares? Cardinal of Dogma Tetradragmaton. Let's just call it that. I know I butchered that. Gotta move on. Cannot be normal summon or set. Must be special summoned by its own effect. You can target 4 monsters, Fusion, Synchro, Exceed, and Link, in either graveyard. And I think it has to be each one of those, not or. Special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, banish those targets at the start of the damage step. If this card battles a special summon monster, destroy as many opponent's attack position monsters as possible. That is absolutely insane, but it's probably going to be a one-of because it's going to be really hard to pull off. Next up, we got to talk about the spell cards. The spell card Dogmatic Nation Dragma. Really powerful card. Your opponent cannot target Dragma monsters you control with effects of monsters that were special summoned from the extra deck. Really nuts. So if you can't target them and you can't battle them if they're coming from the extra deck, then you have a lot of control over the game. If your Dragma monster battles an opponent's monster after a damage calc, it basically constructs them. That's really powerful. If this card in the field zone is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can make both players send one monster from their extra deck to the grave. Double-sided. Next up, we got Disciple of the Nadir, not to be confused with Farfa. That's scrub. Send one monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, then add one Dragma monster or Albus, that's where the tie-in is, whose attack is equal to or lower than the sent monsters from your deck or graveyard to your hand for the rest of this turn. After this resolved, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. This deck cares about the extra deck, but it doesn't care about summoning from the extra deck. I want to make that very clear, and that is a rota that is really, really powerful. Dragma punishment is target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Send one monster whose attack is equal to or higher than it from the extra deck to the grave, and if you do, destroy it. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck until the end of your next turn. Really, really important, and it also locks you out of being able to go into your extra deck to finish your opponent off with maybe a Boral Sword play the next turn. That's kind of a fair card, but also unfair. All of these cards are multifaceted. Activate one of these effects, special summon one Dragma monster or Albus from your hand, or you can take one Dragma or Albus from your grave and add it to your hand or special summon it. You can only activate once per turn. The obvious cards you got to play in your deck. Without a question, these are cards that I feel like are going to have to go into your deck because it's just the way the deck is designed. If you're sending stuff to the graveyard from your extra deck, then Herald of the Arclight, mixing with Seravis. Obviously, you have Omega and Elder into the Intis for anybody that's ever played Infernoids. You already understand where I'm coming from when I say these are the basic staples in decks like that that benefit off of sending something from the extra to the grave. You also have cards like Extra Foolish Goods, but that's besides the point. I could talk on and on about that. Now, if we're going into basically how to break the deck down, yes, I could make an Alistair version. I could make a Zodiac version, and I could talk about that for 20 more minutes. I'm going with the purity of the deck, and then from there, you can build onto that. You can make this deck an engine, or you can make it its own deck. I've already seen it. I've seen it in action. I've seen all three variants in action, and all three of them are possible. Trust me on that. So let's just start with the cards. I played one of the Cardinal. I feel like you're not going to summon him like that at all. Like if you do drop him, it's going to be really powerful like Ultimate Conductor, but it's not going to be that easy to do. I think Fleur de Lis is really, really strong, being 2,500, being able to give monsters 500 attack, everybody too. That's really, really strong. Also, they can't die by battle. I mean, that's really, really nuts. So I feel like that's an automatic 3 of. Maximus Dragma is really, really powerful, and it helps facilitate some of the things that you see in the extra deck, which we'll get into in a second. But Maximus Dragma, I feel like, is a 3 of. I also feel like Theo being able to be just a powerful 2,400 beater that's a 4-star, like old school Yu-Gi-Oh would cry at how good this card is. But he's really, really powerful and really, really puts forth damage onto the board. Albus, I think, is a 2 of. I feel like he's maximized when you go second and you know that you're going second. You can play 3 of them. It's just my opinion. I'm playing 2. Just how I'm starting off. Ecclesia is the searcher. Any searcher that's that good and is that powerful and has that standing effect and also is a really, really cool looking waifu, I think you got to play 3 of it. The waifu part doesn't really matter. The last part, I feel like Aiden is good, but it's not that good. You know, it's a little bit, you know, like meh to me. Getting into cards, I feel like if you're going to play the deck purely as it is meant to go second. Yes, it can go first. And obviously you see stuff down here that maybe you can help you facilitate it going first. But I feel like the deck is meant to go second, at least the pure version. I'm playing Seravis. Obviously, you see the Arclight down here is probably what you want to search if you do send it off of a card like Dragma. And you got 2 Lightning Storms, 2 Desires. Yes, you can play Extravagance, but I feel like why would you do that and jeopardize anything that you see down here once again? Then you got the Terraform to search out the really, really powerful field spell, which we'll get into in a second, which I already told you about. Disciple is basically Rhoda, but it can also set up the cards you see in the extra deck. See how the theme keeps coming back to, hey, what can I bring out of here? Hey, what can I benefit off of? So on and so forth. You got Super Poly. I feel like you already kind of got a Super Poly with Albus, but why not play Super Poly, period? And then summing out something. You know, you can manipulate certain things in your extra deck around to make it all work for you. Then obviously with the field spell, the construct effect is absolutely stupid. And then being able to be covered from targeting. So if you're covered from targeting and the monsters can't die by battle from stuff coming out of the extra, I'm not sure what your opponent's supposed to do, and that makes this a really stalwart type deck, which is good that they didn't make them all big 3,000 beaters. They made them at least fair with their attack values. I'll say that, if that's fair. Impermanence, just a card to go second. Dragma punishment. I feel like the trap thing is kind of interesting because the trap cards are really, really good, but like I don't want Call of the Haunted when I go second, even though this card is really, really nuts. And if you want to build a go first, you would just obviously play more of that. And then being able to target a face-up monster your opponent controls and then send it off of that, off of punishment, it's pretty good. Now finally getting in the extra deck. Yeah, Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, 2 dark monsters on the field. Interesting. Very, very interesting. See how that works? Also, you can play the Super Poly so you can use it again. You could almost fuse into this and it set Super Poly and fuse into another one. Who knows? You know, Mud Dragon is also an option down there. Bastard, the Ashen Dragon, that's obviously going to get a name change. He's the card that I kind of wanted to save to talk about here. He gains attack equal to the combined original levels of the materials used for his fusion summon times 100. After this card is fusion summoned, for the rest of the turn, it is unaffected by the activated effects of other monsters that were special summoned from the extra deck. Continues with the same theme. During the end phase, if this card is in your graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can take 1 Dragma monster or 1 Albus from your deck and either add it to your hand or directly special summon it. So the deck will keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. And that is a really, really powerful effect and the perfect fusion to go along with the rest of the archetype. The rest of this stuff that is in my extra deck, except for obviously the Dweller Bagooska and Tornado Dragon, are all things that benefit off of being in the grave. The new rock guy isn't out yet, but yet he is basically a way to play around Called by the Grave. Let's say you send an Entis to the graveyard and it gets Called by the Grave. Well, you also have Skull Knight, which says when this card is banished, you can banish this card from your grave. Then target 1 monster on the field and destroy it. So no, it can't get rid of back row, but it's still really powerful, in my opinion, to send a card to be able to just pop a monster. And when you have cards down here like Dark Ruler No More, that can help you clear an entire board based off of how you open. In this bottom side part, no, I'm not building an actual side deck. I'm just going along with ideas. I could list 30 ideas, 50 ideas, 100 ideas. That's what deck building is. Usually whoever finds the best tech is going to win the most games. I feel like Secret Village is a real possibility because these guys are really powerful spellcasters. And if you stick 1 in defense, and also you can't, you know, like obviously you lose the target or anything, but if I can't play spells and I can't destroy it by battle or get over it, and then maybe I open Saravis behind that, just saying that might be a problem. Who knows? And then if I could also set Super Poly while having the spellcasters on the field, I mean, like, what are you supposed to do? That's really, really strong. I feel like the Utopia package is a possibility. Dark Ruler is obviously going to be in that side deck because if you can turn off your opponent's board that may be almost unbreakable and then begin to pick it apart when you go second, then it's an obvious go second card that you'd want to use. The coolest card that I found when I was studying the deck is Magic Gate of Miracles. It's actually called something else. I'm pretty sure in OCG, and I'm used to that name. But if you control 2 or more spellcaster monsters, which you will, change 1 attack position monster your opponent controls to defense. So obviously you can't take Link. But with Master Rule 5, there's not going to be as many Link monsters on the board, but you can take control of it, and it cannot be destroyed by battle. Pretty interesting effect. And then obviously Instant Fusion. I felt like Instant Fusion maybe can go in here instantly, but you know, that would be a pun that I didn't intend. But you understand how it could go into this deck and benefit some of these other cards. That's pretty much all I got, folks. This is my breakdown of the deck. If you want to see me replaying the deck, which I will be, trust me, just make sure you drop a comment or a like. Make sure you throw out some ideas if you see something. I do think the Invoked engine is real. I do think the Zodiac engine is real. And there's several other engines that I want to give a try, but I wanted to at least get out a decent deck profile to maybe start from if you don't want to play any of the other variants. This is Greg Farley, aka Pegasus from The Wise Guys and Plushfire Gaming, aka The Wise Fire Alliance. Appreciate you tuning in. I'm out. YG baby.